Welcome to your Dreamworks interview, Nancy.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me, Sarah. I am excited to see what happens.
Am I? Am I? So, what dream would you like to share in the 20 minutes that we have today?
Well, I guess the dream that I want to share is, and my aspiration is to help create a more kind and compassionate world. If you look around, our world is in disarray. And I just want to help not just myself, but the whole of humanity.
Mm,
And the way that I see to achieve this is by doing what I do. This is the dream that I'm working on, and that is to further the message of veganism.
mm,
Um, and some of the things that I do to reach that goal is I am a publisher of two vegan electronic magazines that just shares information, one for adults and one for youth as they need more support on their journey. I also do free cooking demos, vegan cooking demos, to show people how easy it is to transition to eating whole food plant-based diet. But also because when I first started on my vegan journey, I had these ailments, like I suffered from fibromyalgia, migraines, joint swellings, and all of those things disappeared
mm,
after a month of being vegan.
mm,
And I know people who have some of these same ailments, and I thought, why aren't people telling them more about this, to try it for themselves, to see if it works for them like it worked for me? And not seeing that, then I started doing cooking demonstrations, and then I started organizing the Red and Green Veg Fest here in Albuquerque, where I bring speakers that talk on different topics of veganism. Our next one is August 9th here in Albuquerque. But it's been quite a thrill. And then when we went to COVID and we couldn't go out there to do outreach person to person, I started my Vegan Pulse mini podcast that introduces different individuals from all over the world
mm,
who became vegan, even though some of them, like myself, said, I'm not doing this. When you first heard about it, I'm not a rabbit. I don't eat just greens and stuff like that. And I'm so sorry I said that bit way back when. But and so these individuals who had these same experience say the same thing,
mm,
that we should like grab the message when we first got it. But it takes different people, different journeys, different experiences to do uh,
mm.
something or change what they're doing. So I definitely believe that without a more compassionate world, we are just spiraling downward, and we could see it with the violence in the world and the diseases and the viruses that we have that cause an outbreak. Kids who now have diabetes because of the foods they're eating and things like that, or adults as well with heart disease. So my goal and my aspiration is to leave this world a little kinder
Yeah,
than it is today.
yeah. To leave this world a little kinder than it is today. And that's, well, creating the world that's more compassionate too, and that's helping the whole of humanity. And it's about furthering the message of veganism, having this whole food, plant-based diet. Hmm. And if you could put your finger on it, what's the most important thing to you about this dream?
Well, when I first started this goal, I saw it as this is what I have to do. But I'm now on my 10th year of being vegan. And as I read more, focus more, research more, I come to the conclusion that one of the biggest things that we as humanity don't realize is how conditioned we are, and the reason why we do certain things without really even thinking about it or realizing why we do it is just because that's the way it's been done for, so many years. And that is the most dangerous statement that we should not accept that statement. That is the most dangerous statement that anyone can make. This is the way it's been done for so many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So helping people recognize that really who they are is just what they've been conditioned to be. That I want them to realize that, so that they could kind of open up their mind and their heart to look at things through their own eyes and not through those of past experience, past history, or, family, community, to actually look at it for themselves.
So when people actually look at it for themselves, well, then what happens?
Well, I can't talk about other people. I can talk about for myself. So for myself, as when I first came to veganism, I was like, I'm an animal lover. I love animals. Meanwhile, I was, eating pig, cow, chicken, right? So if I'm an animal lover, am I just a pet lover? And what I mean by pet is what people call these sentient beings who are really our companions. Do I just love dogs and cats and maybe bunnies? But it's okay to, torture and kill cows and pigs because they're not in my little circle of those animals that we bring to our homes. And is that truly right? I mean, they experience the same. They both experience fear and love. And I mean, if you go meet a cow and you give it a little rub, you could see, the joy or whatever in their eyes, or a pig or a chicken. I mean, you can see that there's sentience there, and you can see that they also interact with you as you're interacting with them, just as much as when you pet a cat or stroke a dog, it's the same thing. So really, who drew that line? Why did they draw that line? And usually when we come to see the conditioning that we've have had, it boils down to the mighty dollar. Who wants to exploit or, torture someone so that they can, wreak money from them at the least expense to them? That's what they do. They attack the vulnerable and the most docile. So with that said, females are that top. Those are the creatures, whether human or non-human. Females are most exploited.
Yeah. So how did you first hear about veganism and even appreciate it was an option?
Well, I first heard about veganism back in my college days when my friend Michael was a vegan, and he would say, "Oh, I'll meet you for lunch. I'll bring lunch." And I'd be, "No, thank you. I'm not a rabbit. You bring your food. I'll bring my food." See that? Canines, right? Even though true canines from animals like a lion or, something like that, massive, is like that, right? I was pointing to this little tooth right there and going, I'm a canine, right? So I said, no, thank you. You do you, I do me. But then years later, 10 years later, my friend came to visit me. And by that time, I had become vegetarian because the food I was eating was not digesting well. I was always like, kind of always after a meal, you feel that drag. My stomach was upset. And even though we've been told from the get-go, milk is good for you, it upset my stomach, but I still forgot all about that because that's what people said. That's the advertisement out there, right? Well, he came to visit me and I said, I'm vegetarian, thinking he's going to be so proud of me. And he was like, well, that's better. And I was so like delayed it. I was like, what? And he goes, well, you're still contributing to animal suffering because the cows and the way they're treated and so forth. And then right then and there, I was like, okay, I'm vegan now. And I went vegan from then on,
Mm.
because finally that connection that I spoke about before that we don't have when we see a cat and we see a cow or we see a dog and a pig kind of clicked. All of a sudden, it became like a part of the puzzle piece that I was missing.
Yeah.
And from that day on, I saw animals, all animals, in a kind of a different light. I could see their sentience. I could appreciate their individuality and that they're little creatures just like us who have their own world, right? And they have their own language. So that's just like if I went to China and they spoke Chinese and I didn't understand it. It doesn't mean that they're lesser or more than. It just means we're different, but we're kind of all the same, but different.
Mm. Mm. And that was when that connection came in place. And from
That,
that day on, that's when you knew that we were all creatures. They are creatures just like us.
yes, exactly. They're not little objects. Objects are things that we put on a shelf or things like that. Feel no pain. They are actual living creatures, just like us, who don't want to have pain, who want to live. And none of them are volunteering and say, hey, I want to be your chicken sandwich or I want to be your fish sandwich. No, they're not. They have their own world and we should respect that. Just
Yeah.
like we should respect each other, no matter what our nationality, religion, and so on and so on.
Mm. That's a powerful link, actually, that as we can respect animals, that we should also be respecting each other, no matter about the country we're from or the religion that we have. So I guess how can you inspire that connection so that people appreciate that, we are all creatures?
And that's where my publications come in and my podcasts come in and the Veg Fest come in. And we can inspire by education, by helping individuals know where to look for information but people have to also step up and want to have that information, right? Because if I'm in a box and I don't care about going out of my box,
Mm.
then I'm not going to really progress. I'm not going to be anything more than this person in a box, right? That just knows that there's a side and a side all around me and that's it, right?
Mm.
But once I open up that box, I'm like, oh, look at that tree over there, or look at the sky up there, which I wasn't able to see in my own particular box.
Mm.
So that's the way. The way is to one, put out the information there, because the media doesn't help us, because the media, of course, supports the people who give them money, which is the dairy and the meat and the pharma industries. They don't really care about anybody else but their mighty dollar. So we need to put the information out there so people can see it. And then people have to be open enough and wanting to become more informed and find the truth, and see it and see what that tells them as a person, what that tells them as their character and their ethics. Is this what you really want to be supporting? Is this who you really want to be, because this is what you were taught to be? Or do you want to be who you truly are? Which I believe, that for the majority of the population, we're all kind and considerate and we're loving. And sometimes it's taken away from us as we grow up because of those conditionings that we get through society and people and co-workers and so forth.
Mm. Mm. And I love how you're a helping people see out of that box, but you're also helping them find their own truth, and through that they can make an informed choice as to how they want to show up in the world. So what difference would let's play what difference would you like, or do you think this dream will make, um, in your community? Let's start with the community.
Well, I believe that veganism is a message of love. And I think that if I hope one day, well, I know one day, but if veganism was the main uh, goal that everyone had, it would, first of all, help the planet. Our planet is being destroyed by the choices that we're making, especially by allowing animal agriculture to continue to degrade our soil, our air, our water, without thinking that this is not going to come back and bite us. Because when we don't have air to breathe, water to drink, and soil to plant our plants, no money in the world is going to help us in our community. So that's for our health. Our health keeps declining, more diabetes, more heart disease, more strokes, more things that has been proven to be averted or at least eased by following a whole food plant-based diet, by actually eating food that we're supposed to be eating, food that is born from the ground and not killed. Of course, the most important one is to end the torture and exploitation that we have been doing to poor animals worldwide. It's incredible when I see the stories or see the pictures or the videos of what we do to these innocent animals. It is heartbreaking. It could really break a person, and and I have to keep myself in check because it could really spiral the way that you feel about how society can say that's okay with me, because I'm sure that giving the right education, information, that people would not say that's okay with me. And then, of course, for the whole of humanity, because it affects people who, it mainly affects people who are in food deserts, people of color, people with who are less economically able to buy these foods that are out there. So if you go, like when I first went vegan, I went to this neighborhood here in Albuquerque, which they would say is less income individuals. And I went purposely to look at their supermarket, and most of the food in their place was all sugar, watered down, unhealthy, and everything that was healthy, like an apple or whatever, was triple the price. And of course, if you have low income and you have kids and you're trying to feed your family, you're going to go, and that's why they have these lower quality foods in these neighborhoods, because they can't afford more. And you're going to go, well, I got to feed my kids, so I best get this instead of the apple that costs 3 times more. And I could only have one apple and I got to feed 3 kids. I have to, you get what I'm trying to say. So it helps that. Not only that, the people who work in slaughterhouses and things like that, they're these individuals are individuals who also are you can be seen in domestic violence cases, because if you're killing individuals day in, day out, every however many minutes it takes for them to kill them, that affects you, kind of a thing. So I think it would bring more about kinder community where we don't have so much violence. I mean, I don't remember kids being so violent before. And so many, shootouts where people go to a grocery store, a theater, you never even know where you're safe anymore. I think it would bring more compassion to people. I think it would make kinder people. Communication, respect, all part of veganism would definitely allow for a better community.
Mm. And I love the way that you've touched on the fact that it's not just community, which encapsulates all of what you've just spoken about and people's health, but that it also is helping the planet ultimately with the different farming models that there are. And of course, about the compassion it brings to the animal world through ending the torture and exploitation of animals too. And all of this is from your dream, helping to create a more kind and compassionate world for the whole of humanity. And as we're right up against the end of our time, it always flies by. Is there anything you've come to appreciate more about this dream through having spoken about it for 20 minutes?
Yes, I've come to appreciate more the fact that I'm more open to listening. I'm more compassionate in my actions.
Mm,
I feel more connected to the plights of the earth, the animals, and humans. Um, and I'm hopeful that women, especially women,
mm,
um, because they're givers of life. Um, I'm just hopeful that most of them and more of them can come to understand the connection of how the feminine is always exploited and is
mm,
always, pushed down, and that we could be stronger
mm.
by, embracing this message and sharing it with our family, in our community, and our friends.
Thank you
Thank you for
very
having
much for
me.
bringing this dream to the Dreamworks project. It's been wonderful witnessing it.
Thank you.